Hello guys, and welcome to a brand new tutorial. This is Eric Vasquez here from designcuts.com. Now today we're going to be creating a fun imaginative book cover design in Photoshop. And seeing how this week we are celebrating Design Cuts' 5th birthday, we'll be using some of the special featured products that are available for a limited time to do this tutorial. Now this is a special celebratory offer we are running, and after the time passes you will still be able to get these items through the marketplace. You'll also be able to go over to the marketplace and create your very own bundle, choosing from 100 of our very best products for just $5 each. So be sure to check out the link for the special 5th birthday event. Now if you're all ready to begin, then fire up Photoshop and let's get to it. Now right here I've got Photoshop open and I'm going to go ahead and create a new document. Let's go ahead and call it Unleash Your Imagination Book Cover Design. And then for the dimensions here, I'm going to leave it set to pixels, and we want to make our document 1752 pixels wide by 2628 tall. Now for the resolution, you can leave it set to 300, the color mode can remain on RGB, and you can leave the background content set to white, and then let's go ahead and click Create. In here, we just have a single background layer, but the first thing we're going to do is click on this icon here, the adjustment layer icon, so that we can add a solid color adjustment layer. Now for the hex value in here, I'm going to enter 290A07, which is this nice burgundy red color. Now once you've done that, you can simply select the background layer and delete it. Okay, now let's go ahead and create a new layer. Press D on the keyboard to reset your default colors, and then press X to make sure that white is the foreground color, and then press T on the keyboard to get your type tool. Now once your type tool is selected, click in the middle area of your canvas, and we're going to type out the word Unleash. Now come up to the window menu and make sure to open your character panel. Bring it over here so that you can see what we're working with. And for the typeface, we're going to go ahead and change it to one of these special fonts that is available now for a limited time. It's called Gorni, and it's a beautiful typeface. It's really well made. It's got a lot of cool alternate characters and things like that that you guys can use. And it has a regular version as well as a small caps version. So to begin, let's go with the regular version. And you can see here there's a lot of craziness going on with these lines. And I'm going to show you what that's all about. So let's go back up to the window menu and then open the glyphs. Now the glyphs are where you will find some of these special and alternate characters that you can use with this typeface. So it allows you to kind of select individual characters and alter them. So let's first select the letter U here. And I'm just going to now change this to a regular U. But you'll see over here in your glyphs, you also have this whole kind of alphabet. It's basically a map that shows you all of the characters and the alternates that you have available. For the rest of these, I'm going to go ahead and select them one at a time. Let's leave the L the way it is. I'm going to change the E to a regular E, the A to a regular A. And let's also do the same for the S. And then we can leave this H with that nice kind of swirl at the end as is. Okay, so let me grab my type tool again, click inside a few times to highlight the text, and then we can just move the glyphs away for a moment. I'm going to be working in the character panel here to now increase the size of my typeface to about 62 point. Now let's also set the tracking to about -60. Press return, click on the move tool to select it, and now we can just kind of move this over here into the middle of our design. Now let's press Command-Control+J to duplicate the layer, then Command-Control in the left bracket to move the copy below the original, then press Command-Control-T to do a free transform, click, hold the Shift key, and slide it down directly below Unleash. Press T to get your type tool again, and click inside to highlight the text, and now we're going to type out the word Imagination. Now this time most of the characters are pretty plain, but let's go through again and see what kind of alternate characters we have available. You can see as soon as I highlight the character, I'm getting this panel here that's kind of allowing me to just quickly and easily select some of these alternate characters. So for the G, for example, I'm going to select this bottom one, and then maybe I'll come over here to the I, and I'll select this nice swirly one. And then let's go ahead and select the letter N on the end and choose the alternate for that. So we've now got a couple of nice lines of type. Okay, so I'm going to select my second line of type here, the Imagination text, press V to get my move tool, then Command-Control+T to do a free transform, and drag inwards while holding the Alt, Option, and Shift keys. And now I can kind of slide this up a little bit scale it down just by dragging inwards while holding those Alt, Option, and Shift keys until somewhere about there. We want it to be a little bit smaller. All right, now that we've done that, I want to point out for a moment over here in the character panel that you can see the color swatch for this line of text. Let's go ahead and click on that and then enter the hex value BCC839, which is going to give us this nice kind of lime green color. All right, let's go ahead and select Unleash, or better yet, select that color that we just used and press Command-Control-C to copy it. Select Unleash, come back to the character panel, click that color again, and this time just press Command-Control-V to paste that same hex value, just to save a little bit of time. Go ahead and create another new layer, and then press T once again. This time click and type out your in all caps. And what we're going to do here is select this line of type, change it back to a solid white fill color, and now instead of using Gorni regular, let's go ahead and use the small caps version. All right, just to mix it up a little bit. Now for this, I want to make the size of the type around maybe 25 or 26, and I'll also adjust the tracking a little bit so that we can set that to -60. Okay, now I'm just going to drag this text here right in between Unleash and Imagination so that it reads Unleash Your Imagination. Now press Command-Control-J to duplicate that layer, press V to get the Move tool, Command-Control-T to do a free transform, click, hold the Shift key and drag it down directly below Imagination, and then click inside. And now what we're going to do is type out Creative Writing Toolkit, just like that. Press Command-Control-A to select the entire line of text, and then come over to your character panel once again and change this to about 11.5. And we'll go ahead and change the tracking for this line of text to about 80 so that we can spread out the characters a bit more. Now, what we're going to do here is hold the Shift key, tap the up arrow a few times just to kind of nudge it in place here, and then hold the Shift key and tap the right arrow. Now, press T to get your type tool and just click right after the word creative, and then hit Tab on the keyboard a few times. Now, what we're trying to do here is create enough space between the word creative and writing toolkit. Okay, so I'm just going to maybe add a space or two there. And it looks like we may need to go either smaller with this line of text, or we can go a little bit larger with the Imagination text. So let's go a little bit larger with the Imagination text. All right, just so we can open it up a little bit and give ourselves a little bit of breathing room there. Okay, so right here, I'll then select the Creative Writing Toolkit type, press T to get my type tool, and maybe just add another space there in between writing and toolkit so that we can space it out. All right, and that's looking pretty good. Now I think I may want to also come in here, select the whole line of text, and maybe we need to reduce the amount of tracking here a bit as well. So let me change that back to, say, 40 or so. All right, and then I'm just going to nudge this over. And that's reading a little bit better now. So we have Unleash Your Imagination Creative Writing Toolkit. Now I'm going to press Command-Control-J once again to duplicate that layer, then press V to get the Move tool, click, hold the Shift key and slide it down. And now I'll click inside and we're going to once again add some more text here. So first thing I want to do is change the typeface now to a nice clean sans serif font such as Avenir. Maybe we'll go with Avenir Book. And let's go ahead and make it about 9 point for the size and -20 for the tracking setting. Now I'm going to type out the following words. This is going to basically serve as our subhead or our secondary copy below our title. It's going to say including over 500 different story elements, comma, snippets, and press return to go to a new line, imaginative concepts to help get your creativity flowing, exclamation point. Now I'm going to press Command-Control-A just to select both lines of text, and then hold the Alt-Option key and tap the down arrow to add a little bit of space there between those two lines. And you'll see over here in the character panel that that option is changing right here, and that's the line spacing or the leading. All right, so I'm going to set that to about 15, Click on the fill color, and let's go ahead and change it to 196C4A, and then press enter on the keyboard. Now I want to make part of this a little bit bolder and heavier, so I'm going to use my type tool to click and drag around 500 different story elements. Come over to the character panel and change it from book to black. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing where it says help to get your creativity flowing all the way to the exclamation point. And once again, change that style from book to black. Okay, so you now have something like this. Okay, so now we no longer need our glyphs because we have all of our text set up. So what I'm going to do here is just extend the layers palette a little bit, put these kind of layers in order. All right, so it reads properly. Then I'll select the top layer, hold the Shift key, select the bottom text layer, and press Command-Control-G to put it into a new folder. Double-click on the Group 1 text and call this folder TT for title treatment. Now I'm just going to select that whole folder, maybe tap it to the left a couple of clicks, and then tap it up a few times so that it's more centered in the canvas. Now that we've got a pretty nice lockup going here, we can begin to import some of our illustrations by going to the File menu and choosing Place Embedded. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the tutorial, guys, these freebies are only available for a limited time, so you want to make sure to jump on it and get these while you can. Now, after that, you will still be able to access them, but they just won't be free. Okay, so we're going to come over here, and for now, I'm going to go into the Oregano Vector Elements. And the first one I'm going to open here is going to be, let's say, 473. All right, I'm just going to press enter or click on place here on the bottom. And you'll notice that some of these are JPEGs and some are PNGs. So the JPEGs actually have a background in them, which we're going to have to get rid of. So I'm just going to scale this up a little bit, maybe place it somewhere over here on the kind of upper left area of the design, and then just press return on the keyboard. Now you'll see that the file was automatically brought in as a smart object with the number where the name is. So what we're going to do here to get rid of the background is press Command-Control-I to invert it, and then change the blend mode from normal to screen. And that's going to hide all of the black. Okay, so now let's come back up to the File menu, choose Place Embedded once again, and we can begin importing a few more of these. I'm going to open up 288. Okay, and now I can bring this up here a little bit, hold the Shift key and drag outwards to make it a little bit larger, move my cursor over the top right corner and maybe just rotate it a bit. And then I'll press enter once I'm happy with the size and placement of that image. Now again, it's a smart object, but I want to convert it to white, so I'm just going to press Command-Control-I. Since this one is a PNG, it doesn't have a background on it, but let's go ahead and change the blend mode to screen anyway. Come back up to the File menu, and I'm going to repeat this process to bring in a handful more of these images. I'm going to grab 405, which is this cat with these X's for the eye. Maybe make that a bit larger. Crop it a little bit so it's just kind of hanging off the edge there. And then again, press Command-Control-I to invert it and change the blending mode to screen. All right, so repeat this process for a few more of these nice illustrations here. Let's go with 596. I like this lightning bolt here. Okay, I'm going to hold the Shift key and drag outwards to scale it up a little bit. And this one maybe I'll place over here next to Unleash. Press Enter, then Command-Control-I to invert it. Change the blend mode to screen. And then let's go to the next one, Place Embedded. All right, now let's open up 215, this cloud with the lightning bolt. Hold the Alt, Option, and Shift keys to scale it up from the center. And this one I'm going to lower down here a little bit and maybe rotate it as well. Somewhere about there, looks pretty good. Invert it, change the blending mode. Come back up to File and choose Place Embedded once again. This time I'll grab 426, which is this cool looking Viking helmet down here. I'm going to rotate it, maybe scale it up slightly, somewhere about there. Press Enter, invert it, change it to screen. Okay, and then I'm just going to collapse a few of these to make some room. And we'll bring in just a few more of these to get started. Let's go to 455. Bring this one over here. Maybe move it off to the side a little bit like that. Okay, you guessed it, invert it, and then change the blending mode to screen once again. Come back up to File, choose Place Embedded, and let's go with 483, this container of milk here. And I'll slide this one over to the side, maybe make it a little bit larger. Okay, and then kind of crop it like that. We can rotate it a little bit just to mix it up. All right, change it to screen, press Command Control I to invert it. And we now have a handful of nice looking vector illustrations in the image. So what we're going to do from here is select the top one, hold the Shift key and select the bottom one, and then press Command Control G to put it into a group folder. Double click on the Group 1 text here, and we're going to rename this Oregano-Group 1. Right? We're going to have two groups here. Now the next thing I want to do is, now that everything's in a folder together, is hold the Alt Option key and click on the adjustment layer icon and add a solid color fill adjustment layer. Check off this box that says use previous layer to create clipping mask and then click OK. And for the fill color, we'll use the hex value 196C4A. All right, now as you can see, we have boxes around all of the JPEGs, which we don't want. So what we need to do here is double click on that solid fill adjustment layer. And in the main blending options here, we're going to come all the way down to the bottom and take a look at this row here that says underlying layer. Now I'm going to move these sliders around a little bit just so you guys can kind of see what's happening. And you'll see that as soon as I start sliding these around, it's altering the appearance of these images and it's getting rid of those boxes, right? As soon as I seem to pass somewhere around 20 or so, it's hiding that, right? And if I bring it over to the right, it's actually a little bit smoother still. So let's leave it set somewhere around here for now, and then go ahead and click OK on the keyboard. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer, press M on the keyboard to get my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to click and drag a wide rectangle just around the left portion of this bluish green text over here, kind of overlapping the cloud. Now I'm going to press G on the keyboard to get my gradient tool, press Alt Option on the keyboard, and now you'll see that it allows you to toggle between your gradient tool and the eyedropper tool. So while you have the eyedropper tool, click on the background to sample that color. And now that should be your foreground color. Once your foreground color is selected, press Alt Option Delete to fill that shape with the background color. Now what we're going to do is select the TT group folder and move it above that shape. So now you can see that we have a little bit of padding around that text, and we can maybe move it up a little bit, somewhere around there. Okay, and you can press Command Control T to do a free transform, and maybe just close this box in a little bit. I'm just moving my cursor over the handles and holding the Control key so that it's not snapping into place. All right, and that's looking pretty cool. All right, so now what we want to do is begin working on Oregano Group 2. And to do that, we're going to basically repeat the process that we used earlier by bringing in a few more of these illustrations. So go back to that Oregano Vector Elements Kit by Milka, and let's continue bringing some of these in. All right, let's go ahead and grab 513, which is this flying hamster or pig, some kind of flying creature here. And I'm just going to scale it down a little bit, press Command Control I to invert it, and then change the blending mode to screen. Come back up to File, Place Embedded. We will now go to 575 and open this XOXO. And I'll move that somewhere over here. And remember, you're not tied to the size and placement of these elements. You can always come back and move them around as we continue to import these. Let's go with 117. We'll bring in this pencil here. Okay, maybe place that around there and rotate it a bit. Command Control I to invert it and then change the blending mode again. File, Place Embedded. And the idea here is that we just want to fill up this canvas quite a bit with these illustrations to create a nice background pattern. So now I'm working with 247. I'm going to rotate that one a bit, maybe scale it down just to vary the size a little bit more, because we also don't want these to all be the same size. There is a reason why we're adding some variation by scaling and rotating these elements. Right, so for example, maybe keep that a little bit larger. Okay, but maybe we make the pencil a little bit smaller. Okay, and we can just kind of mix things up a little bit to get a little more variety that way. Now let's go to 306. We'll bring in this snail with the unicorn horn. All right, I'm gonna rotate it this way, scale it down a bit, invert it, and change the blending mode to screen. Okay, and now I'm going to select that wow just by holding the control key and clicking on that layer that I want to select. And now you'll see that I can grab 288. All right, and that's that. Now I can just tap it down and reposition it. I'll come back to the File menu, choose Place Embedded once again. This time let's go for 286. We'll bring in these fish bones here. And this I'm going to kind of bend around the curve of the H, right, just to accentuate that curve a little bit. But I want to bring it out of group 1. Okay, so just remember to move that back up towards the top here, invert it, change the blending mode to screen, and hold the control key and click on maybe the nose of the cat here and select 405, and then you can just kind of reposition it, maybe move it up a little bit, somewhere around there. Go ahead and close that folder, come back out where our white illustrations are, and then go back to the File menu and choose Place Embedded to continue bringing in a few more. Let's go 584 and we'll import this planet. Okay, rotate it here in that space between the fish and the carton of milk. And then we're going to invert it and change the blending mode from normal to screen. And then we'll come back over here, Place Embedded, grab 464, which is this cool kind of camera illustration. And I'm going to crop that on the left side here, just next to the word imagination. All right, so we've got most of the top filled out. Now let's work on the bottom. Come over to Place Embedded. I'll open up 186, which is this nice coconut here. I'm going to bring this down here to the bottom. Maybe rotate it, scale it down a little bit. Okay, somewhere around there looks okay. Go ahead and invert that and change the blending mode to screen. Okay. Now, I was just changing the blending mode actually without even clicking anything, just by using the shortcut, and you guys should use this too. Hold the Shift key and use the plus or minus keys to scroll through the different blending modes. Every time you press plus, it'll go down one position, and if you press minus, it will go back up one position. So that's just a good little shortcut to use when you're experimenting and playing around with blending modes. Now let's go to 374. We'll open this happy garlic clove over here and just rotate it a bit next to our coconut drink. Invert it, change the blending mode to screen, come back up, choose File, Place Embedded. Now we'll open up 454, which is this dude comic bubble. And this one I'm going to rotate so that it looks like it's coming from the garlic over here. Press Command-Control-I to invert it, change the blending mode to screen, and then we'll come back up, choose File, Place Embedded once again. And now we will open 346, which is this wooden log here. So for this one, I'm going to move it all the way to the bottom, hold Alt, Option, and Shift, and scale it up quite a bit. Maybe rotate it and kind of crop it along the bottom here like that. Then we'll go ahead and invert it and change the blend mode to screen. Okay, so now I just want to space these out a little bit more just to kind of fill in this, this lower corner over here. So I'll grab the coconut, maybe make it a bit larger, bring it down here to the lower left corner, and then I'll hold the control key, click on my garlic, grab 374, move this up into the left just a bit, and then we'll do the same thing with the comic bubble, just tap that over. And now hold the control key and click on this bird from the other group, from group 1, and you'll see it says 455, and then I'm just going to tap that up a little bit there. And then let's go ahead and select the log and tap that over to the right a bit. So we just want to have some pretty nice, easy, uniform spacing around all of these illustrations here. So like I said before, don't feel locked into any particular size or positioning for these elements. You can arrange them however you like. All right, now once you're happy with the size and positioning of these elements, let's go ahead and select our top illustration here that's not in group 1, hold the Shift key and select the bottom one. So you now have all of these other white illustrations selected. Now press Command-Control-G to put them into a group folder, double-click the group 1 text, and we're going to call this folder Oregano-Group 2. Now just like before, we'll select the folder, hold the Alt Option key and click on the adjustment layer icon, and then choose Solid Color. Now we're going to check off this option that says use previous layer to create clipping mask. And now for the hex value, we can enter 6B0E27, which is this kind of darker magenta color. Now, just like before, we have these boxes. So if you remember, what we need to do is double click on it to bring up our blending options, and then come down here to the very bottom where it says underlying layer. And we're going to slide this over a bit until we get a nice solid fill without any boxes around the shapes. Now, once you've done that, go ahead and press enter on the keyboard to apply the changes. And at this point, I'm going to come in here and maybe just spread out some of these shapes just a little bit more to kind of make them, evenly spaced around the design here. Grab the brass knuckles, tap them down. All right, something like that. And now what we're going to do is select the very top folder, the TT folder for title treatment, hold the Shift key, and select the Color Fill 1 background layer. Now that you've got all these layers selected and folders at the same time, press Command-Control-G on the keyboard, double-click the Group 1 text, and call this group folder Cover Art because it contains all of our cover art. Now what we're going to do from here is save this file, save out your flat color artwork as a PSD file, and this way, in the next portion of the tutorial, we can apply this to an actual hardcover book mockup. So let's save what we have and then move into the next section. Alright guys, so I'm going to go to File, Open, come over here into the Freebies, and now we're going to open this hardcover book mockup from Pixel Buddha, and we'll go ahead and click on Open to bring this up in Photoshop. Now right away you can see we just have one folder and a background layer, and the first thing I want to do here is just zoom out a little bit and press C so that we can crop this. Now I'm going to move my cursor either over the left or the right handle, hold the Alt Option key, and just drag them both inwards to scale from both sides evenly, or to crop from both sides evenly. Now I'll press Enter on the keyboard to crop it, and then I'll click on this arrow next to the book folder to expand the contents of the folder. And if I just extend the layers palette down, you can see that we have a smart object inside here that says Your Design. So as you might have guessed, we're going to double click on that object to open the design so that we can place in our cover art here. Now I'm going to just jump back over to this artwork for a second. And in the beginning of the tutorial, you'll remember that we created a very specific size. It was at 1752 by 2628. And this is actually twice the size from what we need. So what I'm going to do here is press Command-Control-A on the keyboard and then add a layer mask around the entire cover. Okay, and that's going to ensure that nothing spills out of these bounds if we move this around. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do here is come up to this hamburger menu, choose Flatten Image, and then press Command-Control-I to bring up the image size panel. Change the increments here from pixels to percent, and then instead of 100%, let's go ahead and enter 50% and then press Return. Now, if I just click this tab here to move it to the side, I can now grab that cover, click, hold the Shift key, and drop it right in here, and it's going to fit perfectly into this smart object. And if I start to move it up, down, or to the left or the right, you'll notice that there's no edges or anything spilling out because we added that layer mask prior to flattening our cover art. All right, so let's go take a few steps back here in the cover art file. Command-Control, Alt, Option, and Z to step backwards, just until we have our layers back, and then we can save it again, just to make sure that we don't save over our layered file with a flattened single layer. I've done that many times with projects, and it really sucks, and you have to kind of go back and rebuild everything. So just make sure that you don't save over your layered file before you close. Okay, so once you have this in your smart object, we can select both of these original layers, just delete them, and then press Command-Control-S to save this smart object file, and then Command-Control-W to close the tab. And now when we return to the mockup, you'll see that we now have our hardcover artwork applied to the book, and it looks really cool. So let's just apply a few adjustments here to tweak it a little bit more. Now with your book folder selected, press Command-Control-J to duplicate it, then Command-Control-E to merge that whole folder together. Now I'm going to press V to get my move tool, and then press the number 5, and that's going to lower the opacity of this layer to 50%. And you can see what it did there. It basically just intensified or enhanced the shadows a little bit more. All right, so that's the reason why we're duplicating that layer. Now from here, hold the Command-Control key and click on the layer thumbnail icon of the book copy, so the merged copy. All right, now come down to the adjustment layer icon and choose Hue Saturation. Now it'll automatically have a layer mask applied to it because it was using that selection that we made around the book copy. Okay, so now all we have to do is come over to the properties, and I'm going to boost the saturation up to around 24 or 25 just to really make those colors pop a little bit more. Okay, and then what I'll do is hold the Command Control key and click on that layer thumbnail icon once again, return to the adjustment layer icon, and now choose Curves from the list. Now again, just like before, you have a layer mask applied to it based on the selection of the book. So we're just using layers that we already have to make our lives a little bit easier. Okay, now over here in the Curves panel, all I'm going to do is create a point right here in the middle of the grid, and I'm going to change some of these settings. Let's go ahead and manually type in 139 for the input, and for the output, I want to brighten that up, so I'll type in 148. Okay, and that's just going to give us some nice contrast there on the outside, make things a little bit brighter. So as you can see, guys, it really is easy when you have these great elements and illustrations and beautiful typefaces to work with, and you want to jump in and design something really fun and imaginative like this book cover that we've created today. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this tutorial and hopefully learned a few new tips and tricks. We would love to see what kind of stuff you guys create with these elements or with your very own bundles, so be sure to share that with us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Eric Vasquez, and we'll see you next time.